My hometown is in Southeast Guizhou, and today I want to share a story about what we call a zombie, though locally we don't actually use the word zombie, we call it a Ganbiezi. I was too young to say whether it's true or not, but the place where it all happened is still there, deep in the mountains behind our village. Since I was old, I've often heard the elders tell this story. First, let me tell you a bit about where I am from. Guizhou is full of karst landscapes, lots of caves, and tunnels running under the mountains. Behind our village, there's a place called Flying Dragon Cave. You could think of it as one of those creepy, haunted places where evil spirits gather. Really spooky. The Ganbiezi that later terrorized the village was hiding in that very cave, and even after it was dealt with, local folk healers said that because of the special feng shui of the area, it's still a place that attracts ghosts and dark energy. So even now, people say wild spirits and angry ghosts linger in Flying Dragon Cave. Of course, these days it's not really a threat to the locals anymore. The really dangerous time was back in the 1960s. That thing brought fear and unrest to several villages around here. Now let me tell you where this creature came from. Before liberation, Flying Dragon Cave was a bandit hideout. When the government cracked down on bandits, most of them were taken out, but one escaped. Because the cave is so complex, with underground rivers and hidden tunnels that seem to have no end, he managed to hide inside, but eventually, he starved to death in there. That was in the early 1950s. At first, nothing strange happened, but there were signs. Around Flying Dragon Cave, crows started flying in and nesting there. Sometimes, when hunters passed by, dozens of crows would suddenly burst out from inside. It was until the 1960s that things got really bad. At the beginning, it was like those stories you hear online. Chickens and ducks went missing because the creature wasn't powerful enough yet. It only went after animals. The villagers didn't think much of it. Our area rare had supernatural occurrences, and information was scarce back then. So nobody knew what it was. Until one night, something terrible happened. There was a family in our village. That night, they heard noises from the chicken coop, like a weasel had gotten in. The husband asked his wife to go check. She put on her clothes, took an oil lamp, and went outside. But she never came back. The husband waited, still awake in bed. After more than 10 minutes, he went out to look. The chickens were all there, but his wife was gone. The oil lamp was lying broken on the ground. People searched everywhere, but after a day or two, there was still no sign of her. So the husband went to see a folk healer from a nearby village. The healer set up an altar and performed divination to locate his wife. And he actually found her. The healer said, "Go back home, walk north, and you'll find her." North led to the back mountains. So the man went north, all the way to Flying Dragon Cave. Right near the entrance, he saw his wife lying just inside the cave, but her body was torn apart, like she'd been led by Adagar or leopard. She was barely recognizable. The healer later explained that night, a creature from Flying Dragon Cave had come to their home. When his wife went out alone, it hypnotized her and led her into the mountains. After the villagers understood what happened, they knew they could unlive with this thing lure king nearby. So the village head gathered a group of young men to go up the mountain and hunt it down. But the caves here in Guizhou are extremely complex, huge, maze-like, easy to get lost in. A whole group went inside but found nothing. It was like the creature could sense them coming and hid deep, where no one could find it. So they had to return to the village. But after that, several nearby villages suffered. After taking a human life, the creature became even more aggressive. The mountain villages here are spread out. A few houses on the east hill, a few on the west slope. It's hard to gather people quickly. So every night when everyone was asleep, this thing would come down from the mountain. It targeted isolated families, sometimes stealing animals, other times luring people into the mountains. The next day, those people would be found inside Flying Dragon Cave, their bodies ripped apart. It got so bad that every night, this thing would roam around different villages like a boss in a video game, random spawning in one village or another. As soon as the sun went down, Every family locked their doors and hid their children because children were the easiest targets. If you weren't, they'd be lured away. There's own story the elders told me that stuck with me. It's part of why I feel these magical sounding stories might be real. When people were still not fully aware of the danger, one afternoon Occult ate dinner and went to sleep. In the middle of the night, he heard knocking on his window. He woke up and saw his father outside, motioning for him to come out. The child, almost in a trance, followed, but no matter how fast he ran, his father stayed 10 or 20 meters ahead. Luckily, the child cried out, "Dad, wait for me," and his real parents, sleeping upstairs, heard him and rushed out. They caught up just as he reached the woods. The father yelled, "Where are you going?" Suddenly, the child snapped out of it. He looked again. It was this father. It was a dried-up, green-faced creature with fangs, gesturing to him. Other villagers heard the noise and came out. The creature saw them and fled back into the mountains. The child survived. They say he still lives in the village today. As an old man, this thing caused trouble around here for a long time. There were two main reasons. First, due to the social situation at the time. Most folk healers stayed hidden and didn't help. Second, the terrain deep in the Guizhou mountains is just too complicated. Even when people searched, it was easy for the creature to hide. This went on for years. Then one day, a folk healer from a village nearby decided to take action. He was aerial hero. Even now, if his descendants need anything, people from all around come to help. Their old house was eventually torn down, but when I was 7 or 8, it was still standing. I remember looking through the crack in the door and seeing the altar inside, because the villages had suffered so much. This healer made a plan. One afternoon, he went up the mountain alone with his tools. He was going to end this. After that night, the Ganbiezi never came down again. But the healer also disappeared. No one knew where he went. A year later, something strange happened. A villager's cow suddenly ran into the mountains. The villager chased it and thought he saw someone leading the cow. Back then, cows were valuable collective property. Losing one was serious, so he ran after it. But no matter how fast he went, he couldn't catch up. All he heard was the cowbell ringing ahead. He followed all the way to Flying Dragon Cave. The cow went inside. He and others who joined the search bravely entered. Deep in the cave, they found the cow and also the body of the healer, and next to him, the body of the Ganbiezi. They had killed each other. The creature was pierced with asp, and the healer was badly wounded. He hadn't made it out. As for why the cow went up the mountain, people later guessed that the person leading it might have been the spirit of the healer. He wanted the villagers to find his body and give him a proper burial, and so they did. The villagers collected money and buried him with respect. Decades have passed, and this event has become a local legend. Sometimes when I go up the mountain and look toward Flying Dragon Cave, I imagine that night, the healer, alone with his sword and oil lamp, walking into the dark to face the evil. He gave his life to bring peace to our home. It sounds like something from a novel, but it really happened, right here in my hometown.